Good evening out there. You're welcome to yet another edition of Reflections. My name is Adeketo Adiagbo. The plight of our widows in the society and the efforts of stakeholders at ending the plight is what Reflections is focusing on in this week's edition. Considering the pains, the lack, and most times the inhuman treatment meted out to widows, one can only conclude that the society still needs a lot of enlightenment on how to handle the widows in our society. And that is why the title of this week's research is Widowhood, Preparing for the End from the Beginning. Please come along with me.
Nigeria has continued to rate among the nations with low consideration for the plight of their widows. According to research, this rating is made possible because of the societal perception of the class which constitutes the widows. This perception makes women to be rated as second-class citizens or inferior to men. African tradition promotes male domination and female subordination. Hence, issues relating to women are given almost the lowest consideration. The position of the society on gender-related issues makes it easy for the man who loses his wife to death to adjust in no time by taking up an appropriate substitution to comfort him. This arrangement is supported by family members and the society at large. The situation of the woman is, however, different, as a disorganizing and traumatic experience could be compounded by inhuman treatments such as false allegation and personal torture. The inhuman treatment varies in communities in Nigeria, but it is widely believed that it is more grave in the eastern part of the country. Widows are subjected to inhuman treatments such as disinheritance, forced marriage to in-laws, wife inheritance, prolonged mourning for weeks, months, or a year, restriction to the house, forbidden from eating certain food items, forced to sleep with the corpse, required to wear dark, dull mourning clothes, forced out of matrimonial homes, forced to wail incessantly to show remorse and grief, forced to shave the hair on their head or pubic region, deprived of basic personal hygiene by not taking a bath for days, forced to drink water used to bathe the corpse of husbands. Widowhood, no doubt, has been one of the most prevalent but dangerous phenomena that restricts the woman from enjoying her fundamental human rights. Commenting on the long-standing culture of the Igbos as it pertains to the treatment of widows are Alex Anoze and Mrs. Ebere Uleanya.
We have cultures, all tribes in Nigeria, they have their various cultures. And in Igbo land, we also have our own culture. For example, the culture of shaving the head of a widow, the culture of bathing the corpse, and the widow drinks the water or whatever. These are cultures that are dying away. And we are quietly supporting its dying away because we want something better for today's society, for this generation.
And they will ask them, they will even lay bad allegation that they want to kill their husband, something like that. They will treat them bad. They will give them water to drink. Some they will ask them to sleep with the husband daybreak before burying the man. They will be talking many things. They will shave their hair. They will even their private. They will shave it. So now I don't think things like that is being done again.
To say that family members compound the already existing problems of widows in our society is stating the obvious. As soon as their relation dies, the wife is accused of being responsible for the death. Such wives are victimized, driven out of their matrimonial homes, while some who are not lucky to have male children for their late husbands are denied their rights of inheritance. Research has shown that the most difficult challenge a widow faces is that of inheritance. The formula for the sharing of the deceased property varies in religions and culture. Although a widow is entitled to a certain percentage of her husband's inheritance, some cultures and traditions base the sharing formula on trivialities such as the number of children she has for the deceased, the number of males and females, while some see it as a payback time depending on how accessible and receptive the widow was to her late husband's family members during her husband's lifetime. Speaking on the sharing formula, the Executive Secretary of Muslim Ummah of Southwest Nigeria, Professor Dawood Noibi, says in Islam, the sharing of the deceased properties is done according to the Islamic law as spelled out by the Quran.
When the person, the man, has passed on and the period of Iddah is over, she is entitled to a particular share of whatever estate the man has left behind. If the man had children of his own who may not necessarily be children from her, she would be entitled to 1/8 of the property of the husband that's left behind when other things have already been sorted out, such as the cost of the burial, if the man had any debts that must be paid, and if the man has actually made a bequeathal of part of the property, which must not be more than 1/3 of the property. And this can be given only to people who are not among the official or Quranic sharers, those to whom Allah himself had already given full shares. That's the bequeathal part of it. But if the man did not have any children of his own left on earth, then she is entitled to 1/4 of the estate.
It is also placed on record that tradition and culture in times past compelled a widow to be inherited by one of the immediate family members of her late husband, a practice that infringed on the woman's right of choice. However, the situation is changing in recent times as a woman is allowed to remarry a person of her choice within or outside the family, as explained by Alex Anoze and Professor Noibi.
Well, in the years past, many years past, it used to be so, but not now again. Now it is always negotiable. When such a vacuum comes, it is to be negotiated. You cannot force anybody on anybody in this present world. The woman that lost the husband, if you want her to take to the brother, to the lost husband, to the late husband, it has to be negotiated. You sit, the family sits down, talks over it peacefully, get the mind of the woman, get her convinced, get the mind of the man that will be involved, get him convinced, both agree. It is possible. There is nothing criminal about it. But the areas where we are saying no are areas where people are forced to doing things like that, even against their own will, against his will or her will. Things like that, we now sit and talk and negotiate. If it's the wish of the woman, okay. If she said no, she doesn't want, she wants to stay alone with her children, okay. Nobody should force anybody.
She is free to get married to another person of her choice. And I want to emphasize that, of her choice. And such a person does not have to be a member of her husband's family. There is no provision whatsoever in Islam for the inheriting of a wife. It's absolutely forbidden because she is not a property of the husband. She was a party to a contract which came to an end with the death of the husband. She is entirely free to make a choice of what husband that she can remarry. These could be members of the family who are not among the prohibited circle of relations. Namely, she cannot be married to the father of her former husband, or uncle of her former husband, or a child of her former husband. These are among those that are entirely prohibited relationships.
The difficulties the woman faces at the death of her husband brings reflections to some pertinent questions relating to marriage. Such questions include: how should a wife and husband secure their marriage? When is the appropriate time for a man to prepare his will? And how can a widow claim her rights? Speaking to reflections on this matter, a legal expert, Mrs. Dupe Awoshemusi, who is also the Treasurer, Federation of Women Lawyers, Oyo State, said a union under the Marriage Act makes it easy for the widow to enjoy her fundamental rights.
You are a woman married under the Act. We refer to those people as the legal wife. That's the marriage under the Act. Their rights are different from the rights of a woman who is married under the customary law. Under the customary law, particularly in the eastern some part of the western region, we see the woman as part of the estate. Therefore, she's part of she's part of the properties to be managed. She's part of things to be shared. That's why you hear the issue of Ansuloko and all the stuff. But when it comes to marriage under the Act, the widow and a marriage under the Act has a lot of rights. She has a right to a percentage of the property of the husband, while the children has the right to the other parts of the estate. Sometimes, if the man does not have another child or children outside wedlock, then better for the widow. But if the deceased has another child or children outside wedlock, those children are entitled to some percentage of the estate of the man, because there is no bastard in our constitution in Nigeria. So there's something we call rule of survivorship too. If there is maybe if the widow and the husband jointly own the property, or like shares or whatever, when the husband dies, applying the rule of survivorship, the property the property now goes to the widow. That's another right.
The problems experienced by a widow at a critical time of loss are enormous, and since death is inevitable, it is expected that couples will put their homes in order and get themselves prepared for any eventuality. Commenting on the level of preparedness in a marriage, stakeholders agreed that the onus rests on the husband, who is expected to prepare his will accordingly. Dr. Mrs. Joan Agunloye said men should not focus on death when preparing their will.
You don't think of death when you are preparing your will. You should not focus on death, because that is a bit scary, you know. A man, the more you are having your assets, it's better you prepare your will. Not because of death, but because nobody knows when anything could happen. Your will could be reviewed yearly. So the